Hello, my name's Jan Knodel. I'm the Extension Entomologist from North Dakota State University. This is the Insect Update talk where I'm going to just summarize some new research on Bt corn and European corn borer and then spend most of the time talking about bed bugs. A recent article came out in Science magazine by Hutchinson and all where he looked at Bt corn and European corn borer populations. The corn acreage is increasing with Bt corn up to about 63%. And in the research project, they found that the widespread planting of the Bt corn has actually suppressed the European corn borer populations. And surprisingly, most of the benefit is going to the growers of non-Bt cornfields, about 62%, valued at $4.3 billion. Well, this area-wide suppression of corn borer has been significant in the states where the research was done: Minnesota, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Corn borer declined from 73% in 1996 to 28% in 2009. This is good news because overall this means less insecticide use is being for control of European corn borer, and also increases the importance of proper stewardship of our Bt corn technology. And what we mean by that is planting the non-Bt corn refuges to minimize the risk of European corn borer developing insecticide resistance to the Bt corn. With the corn refuges, we need to have the genetics there of the susceptible corn borer to breed with any potential resistant corn borers. This will help reduce the risk of developing resistance. So in the insect guide this year, I put a handy Bt traits table in that was developed by Chris DeFonso of Michigan State and Elaine Cullen of the University of Wisconsin. You'll find it in the corn section. In the table, there's the trait group listed, or the common trade name like Smart Stack, and the Bt protein that's used, and the insect controlled or suppressed: black cutworm, corn earworm, corn rootworm, European corn borer, fall armyworm, southwest corn borer, and western bean cutworm. And then if there's any herbicide tolerance trait that is stacked, Liberty Link, Roundup Ready, for example, and then what the refuge requirements are and the location. So, for example, is the refuge 20%? Is it adjacent, or can it be a half mile from the Bt corn? And with that, I'm just going to move right into the bed bugs now. This has become a real popular subject in the national news, and also we're seeing an increase in the people coming into our diagnostic lab bringing bed bugs for us to identify and wondering how to control them. So it's becoming a real issue here, even to us here in North Dakota. Some of the other interesting names for bed bug are mahogany flat, crimson rambler, redcoat, and wall flounder. Wall flounder is probably my favorite. Well, bed bugs are widely distributed in the temperate regions of the world. We originally think it was brought to the U.S. by colonists from Europe in the early 1700s. However, they date back much further than that. There's been fossil records found back 3,500 years ago. So bed bugs have really followed us from the caves to tents to our homes. Well, back in the right after the World War II, we used a lot of DDT in the urban areas and in our homes for control of cockroaches, flies, and mosquitoes. And bed bugs were really a secondary pest that was controlled with this use. Then BDT was banned in 1973, and today we're relying primarily on pyrethroids for control of these urban pests. Well, we're seeing a real resurgence of bed bugs, 500% in fact, in recent years. It's become a real hot topic. And this is partially due to international travel and bed bugs moving around more foreign travel coming from countries where bed bugs are maybe a little more common, bringing them into the U.S., and also because we're starting to see some resistance to the pyrethroid insecticide, but also the residual on that DDT is disappearing. It's no longer there controlling the bed bugs. So that's one of the main reasons we're seeing this increase in bed bugs. EPA has responded by organizing national bed bug summits annually, and there's one coming up here in Washington, D.C. in early February. Well, when you talk about arthropod pesticide resistance, there's been a huge increase in the last 10 years in pesticide resistance. You can see how dramatic that red line is. Up to 557 species of arthropods are now resistant to one or more pesticides. Most of this has occurred in the agriculture and forestry setting, 65%, and then followed by the urban veterinary and medical situations, 32% resistance, and that's where bed bugs would be. And interesting, even 3% of natural enemies are developed resistant to pesticides. And this may also be of some benefit to us in pest management situations. Well, bed bugs are not pretty easy to identify, but you can still confuse them with some other things you might see. And in North Dakota, we commonly see a lot of bat bugs and swallow bugs that you might confuse the bed bugs with. Bat bugs, as the name implies, feeds on bats. Swallow bugs feeds on swallow birds. So it's best to always get a suspect specimen identified by an entomologist just to be sure. There's many keys like the one on the right that you can use to help with your identification. The basic identification is it's a fairly small insect, about 1/4 of an inch. It's kind of flattened dorsal ventrally and reddish brown in color. They have piercing, sucking mouth part and the typical 6 legs that insects have. The pronotum is kind of heart-shaped. When they're active and feeding, the abdomen will come very extended and more of a bright red from the blood meal inside the abdomen. In fact, the picture there on the top, you can see that bed bug has not fed very recently. You can see the abdomen inside there is quite dark, indicating that there's no fresh blood. There's 3 different life stages: egg, nymph, and adult. The nymph is the immature stage. Can take about 4 to 5 weeks for it to complete its life cycle, depending on the temperature. And then the eggs are laid on the mattresses and other locations. They kind of have a sticky substance on the outside which glues them to their surface. Each female lay about 5 eggs a day for a total of 500 eggs in her lifetime. The bottom picture shows you a nymph or immature bed bug that is feeding, and you can see the bright red fresh blood in the abdomen. Well, they do need their blood meal to survive, but they can survive for quite a long time without a blood meal, up to 6 months. So anyway, the good thing is that they don't vector any diseases when they do feed. They typically feed in nighttime while we're sleeping. The peak feeding time is about an hour before dawn. Feeding doesn't take very long, only about 5 to 10 minutes. And you'll see some of the symptoms of bed bugs, maybe some of the fecal spots that you might see on the wall or on your sheets. These are the fecal blood droppings from the bed bugs. They're a good indication of bed bug activity. If you have a real severe infestation, you might smell a sweet, kind of pungent scent, which is the alarm pheromone that is given off by the bed bugs. But bed bugs are really good hitchhikers, so it's easy for them to move around. They have been found in seats in the airplane and the bus, for example. They can move around on your coats, and if your furniture that you might be moving. As I mentioned, they are not known to transfer any disease. The bites kind of look like red welts on the skin. Some people are really sensitive to insect bites in general, and they can swell up much worse. This is a relatively mild picture of a bed bug bite. And of course, if you scratch that, you could get any bacterial infection from that. But generally, no medical treatment is required from bed bugs and their bites. We typically, when they bite us, we don't really feel it at all because they inject anesthesia with their saliva when they inject and feed. So you're not going to feel the bite, and it won't wake you up during the night. We basically recommend that you call a qualified exterminator or pest control operator if you have bed bugs, because a lot of the things available to the homeowner will not control bed bugs, like your bug bombs, over the counter. Pause. If you do find bed bugs, we recommend that you call a qualified exterminator or pest control operator. Many of the things available to the homeowner will not control bed bugs, like your typical bug bombs for fleas, for example, your over-the-counter cockroach insecticides. Extermination is not easy. It involves a lot of sanitation and getting rid of clutter in terms of the homeowner. It's a long, expensive process. In New York City, a home could cost up to about $5,000, and an apartment complex up to $85,000. In some areas, there's actually beagles that have been trained to sniff out and find bed bugs. So, steps we can take to prevent bed bug infestation is just getting rid of clutter, because they love to hide in all those clothes on the floor. Seal crack and crevices. Vacuum your furniture and rugs and bed frequently, and then don't forget to throw the bag out immediately, otherwise they can reinfest your house. Wash and dry clothing and bed sheets at high temperatures. 113 degrees Fahrenheit for an hour is recommended. If you're getting furniture from secondhand furniture stores and so forth, make sure you closely inspect them before you bring them inside to your home. If you're traveling, avoid throwing your luggage on the bed or the floor, where it's more likely to become infested with bed bugs. Use that luggage rack. And when you return from your trip, be sure you inspect your luggage really closely. In the winter, I even recommend leaving it out in the garage or outside if it's real cold, and wash your clothes right away. Just to review some of their hiding spots again: seams, creases, folds in the mattress, the bed frame, any cracks in the bed frame, underneath the chairs, the bed, couches, dust covers, underneath rugs, edges of the carpet. They'll even get into your curtains and the folds there in the curtains, in the drawers of the nightstands, dressers. And here's where you're going to need a flashlight to get up and look into the upper corners of pull the drawers out and look up into that corner, see if there's any bed bugs behind electrical switch plates and underneath loose wallpapers, paintings, and so forth. And I mentioned about the heat in the appliances attracts them, so oftentimes they'll get inside TVs, radios, clocks, and telephones. EPA has put together a pesticide database on bed bugs. It lists all the different pesticides and where you can use them on the mattress, your whole home or room, or just the walls, and if they're legal to use by the homeowner or if you have to be a professional and certified. So those are some good websites that you can go to there on the EPA. And I also like the extension fact sheet at Pennsylvania State University. So just because you can use this pesticide outside for control of your insect problems, don't assume that you can use it inside. So make sure you always check the product to see if it's effective and has bed bug on the labels, and then where you can use it. You can use it for the mattress or just the area around the mattress. Read that label and then follow the directions. And make sure the pesticide also has a EPA registration number. If not, it hasn't been reviewed by the EPA. So that concludes. I hope you have a good day and don't let the bed bugs bite.